have a confession to make. I don't like using chenille yarn to make amigurumi. Hopefully after that confession, I'm still allowed to be in the ami making community. But hello, my name is Sonnet, and in today's video, we're going to be testing out the two most popular chenille yarns that I see to see if they can change my mind. Now, just a quick disclaimer, obviously my dislike for chenille yarn is my opinion. If you prefer chenille yarn or you love to make big, giant, plushy amis with chenille and blanket yarn, I think that is fantastic, and I hope we can still be friends. So I like to make amigurumi with cotton yarn or Barocco vintage, and very rarely will I use a chenille yarn. I hate the shedding that happens. I hate that I can't see my stitches, and I just don't like the look of it a lot of times. So I tend to stay away from the chenille. But I placed an order with Hobbi to get some of their honey bunny yarn, and I also placed an order with Premier to get some of their Parfait Chinky. And we'll be making projects with those two yarns to see if I can change my mind. Let's go ahead and start off with Honey Bunny by Hobbi. I have seen this yarn everywhere. Oh my goodness, so many patterns use this yarn. Everyone is obsessed with it, and I had to try it out. Now, with the holidays, I can't resist a good holiday yarn, so I got their holiday color. So this was the Honey Bunny Christmas in the colorway red, white, and green. I got it on sale for $7.70, but typically this ball of yarn is $14. It is 100% polyester, a super bulky weight, and you get 196 yards in your ball. Now I'm starting off here with the Glacier Twist Headband. This is a free crochet pattern from MJ's Off the Hook Design. There is a YouTube video for this design, but I just followed the online blog. Working with this Honey Bunny was pretty good. It was really soft. You can see here is the kiddo's headband. It's all done. So one thing I don't know if you can tell here, you'll definitely be able to tell later, is because of the way this ball is wound and the dye and everything, the white part of this ball of yarn is actually pink. It is stained pink at places because of the red. And for me, it was not that big of a deal, but keep that in mind because for somebody that might be a giant deal if the white section of their yarn is actually pink. Here I am making up my headband, and I thought it was beautiful. I think it was so soft. And there's our finished headband. That is mine, and then we will put the kiddos right next to it. I thought this pattern was so fun. It worked up in minutes and so much yarn left over. So I decided to then start to make a ami. Now I decided to make a little Christmas ornament. I named him Benny the Christmas Bauble. Now I did have to frog the beginning of it, and it frogged very easy. You can see by the fluff on my desk, there was a little bit of shedding. What we're doing is just making a big ball. I tried to make as big of a ball as I possibly could to get all of the colors in there, as well as use up most of that ball of yarn. My least favorite thing about this particular ball of yarn I got is the colorway. I wanted a very Christmassy looking ornament, and yes, it's red and green and white, but my ornament actually just reminded me more of the Mexico flag, which is cool, but it wasn't necessarily the look that I was going for. So I didn't like the colorway. I'm not very familiar with this colorway, and I'm not very familiar with Honey Bunny in general, since this is my first time using it. So I was not sure how the colors would work up. In the future, I don't think I would buy these multicolored skeins of yarn just because I don't like that stripy pattern that they are giving. I did make his eyes using felt and cutting it out on my Cricut. As you can see, I had issues placing the eyes because I like to do a oval white of the eye and then the black pupil. That's just how I do my illustrations. But the white stripe in the middle of the ornament was making it kind of difficult to see his eyes. So I could have either put them very low, which I didn't like, or put them high up like I did, and well, there he is. So I did use some blanket yarn to make his little top, and I think he did turn out so cute. I love him, but again, the color was not my favorite. I wanted something that wasn't so blocky, if that makes sense. I think in the future, if I do want to get more Christmas honey bunny yarn, I would probably just go with the red and white version or the red and green version. Now I did have even more left over after that, so I continued on and made just a little round kind of Christmas decoration. It's just going to be like a little round placemat for something. But yeah, I just wanted to use the leftover honey bunny that I had. And I wanted this little placemat to be pretty even, so I just did basically one row of the white, and then I cut my yarn, and we had just a little bit of yarn left over. And yeah, we just have a nice little flat Christmassy placemat for something. Now the solid colors of Honey Bunny are $9.10 when they are not on sale, a super bulky weight, and 100% polyester. And the normal balls of Honey Bunny get you 131 yards. Next up is the Parfait Chunky. I placed an order and I got a couple of basic colors. I love pineapples, and so I figured I would go ahead and use a pattern that I'm familiar with, one that I have made before, so I could test it out to see how I feel about this yarn with a pattern that I know how it works up. The Parfait Chunky is just like the Honey Bunny. Everyone is always using it. There are so many makers that love this yarn, and I had never really used Premier yarn before, so I was really excited to check it out. Parfait Chunky is 100% polyester. It is a super bulky weight, and a ball of this yarn will get you 131 yards. There's 53 colors, which I think is absolutely wonderful, and the normal price when it is not on sale is $4.99. So I am using the pineapple pattern from the book Whimsical Stitches by Lauren Espy. I love this pattern. I love Lauren Espy's patterns. I've made so many of her patterns that I am very familiar with how they work out, and I know I love them. So I can go in confidently saying I can judge this yarn based on the yarn alone and not the pattern. Working up the Parfait Chunky feels so soft. I did have to frog this piece as well, and it passed the frogging test. It did frog very nicely. For the eyes, I am actually going to be painting my own safety eyes. So I have these clear ones here, and I am just using like a shimmery paint pen that I got from the kids craft section in Michael's. This is my favorite way to actually make my own safety eyes. I just love the shimmery look of it. Now I did struggle with some shedding while making the leaves. Again, it wasn't anything to make me have a bad time, but there was occasional shedding. This pattern works up super quickly and it is so fun. Here you can see my little finished pineapple. His eyes turned out so cute. Oh my gosh, I love him. And here we have all of the projects that I made. So the headbands, the little Christmas placemat, my Benny the Christmas Bauble, as well as my pineapple. And I love how all of these projects turned out. I think they are so adorable. So what are my overall thoughts? Were these two yarns able to change my mind about chenille yarn? Well, kind of. I did have a fantastic time making these projects, and that's what's important. I didn't experience a lot of shedding like I have experienced in the past, and that is what would enrage me so much that I hated working with chenille yarn. The stitch definition was great. I was able to see what I was doing, which is kind of important. And the yarns were both so soft, and the projects turned out so cute. So these are two yarns that I will be going back to make more amigurumi with, but it's not going to be my number one yarn for amis. Let's start with Honey Bunny. Now, I did prefer this one over the Parfait Chunky. I think the feel of it is a little bit nicer, and I liked the look of the stitches a little bit more than the Parfait Chunky. Even though I hated the color, I still really liked this yarn a lot, and I want to make more amis with it. However, I am on a budget, and this one just is a little bit outside of my price range. I do think you get a lot for the cost. However, I can't justify spending that much money on yarn that's not my all-time favorite to use. For the price, I could easily get a skein of Barocco Vintage, and we know how much I love that. Now, I feel the price of Parfait Chunky is definitely in my price range. I think the price is excellent for the yarn. Now, I know a lot of yarn goes out of stock and it's not just chenille yarn, but because these two brands are so popular, I find that it is harder to find what you need in stock, and it is a waiting game to be notified for when the color you need is in stock. But the number one reason why I will not be using this as my number one yarn for amigurumis is very simple. I love the look of cotton amis. I feel that cotton and Barocco vintage amis just have a very vintage and homemade look to them. They are so charming and you can see all of the details so clearly. And to me, cotton or my Barocco vintage that I use just feels a little bit more homey and sweet. The Honey Bunny and the Parfait Chunky do create adorable amis, but I do feel like they look a little bit more on the modern side. Again, they are super cute, don't get me wrong, and I will be using more of this yarn in the future, but my cotton and Barocco vintage are still number one in my heart. With all of that being said, if you are way into chenille or blanket yarn and that is your all-time favorite to make amis, I think that is so fantastic. Please keep making what makes you happy. Keep doing what you love. There is room for all of us here in this crafty little crochet corner of the internet. And at the end of the day, the world is full of so much destruction and sadness, and your amis are bringing creativity and light regardless of the yarn you are using. So keep stitching and keep filling the world with creativity and love. But that's it for me today. Tell me, what is your favorite yarn to use to make amigurumi? Thank you so much for being here. I love you so much, and I will see you all a little later. Bye.